And welcome to the Armchair Fantasy Show, episode 214. Today we have a great show going out for tonight. It is the DFS Pricing Week 1 pricing show. We have Tim, and live every Wednesday on Fridays on Facebook, Live, Periscope, YouTube, syndicated on all major podcast, network, and streaming and redesign going for 2 app and iOS and Android. Tune in for the show and just wait, and we're going to get this started.
For 2, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for 2, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo! This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the.
And what is up, everybody? We got week 1 pricing, baby. I don't know how long I've been waiting for this, but it's been a while. Tonight we have one of my favorite person to do the podcast with every freaking season, Mr. Tim Provo, Keto DFS. How you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be back, man. Football right around the corner. You know, we had the Hall of Fame game last night, and that's how you know. Football season's right around the corner.
And the Cowboys lose, right? That's how we know.
Yeah, that's how you want to start the season off. Exactly right.
So, and as you guys can see, one of our main hosts, our main host, Jeff, is not here today. But that's okay. We got you fill in. He's on vacation. He's taking a little early vacation. Well-deserved, too, for the Going for 2 family. He puts on a great support, and we have a good group of guys. But, hey, man, week 1, baby, it's here. So let's just jump right into it.
I was actually kind of surprised, that they put out the salaries already. Maybe it was a few days earlier than expected, but I love it, man. They even put it out before the preseason slate, right? So Draftkings has definitely given us plenty of opportunity to put some lineups together in advance of week 1.
Oh, yeah. No, when you guys messaged me in the chat, I got 3 tags. I'm like, did I mess up? Did I do something? Am I on a live video call and butt dialing or something? No, it was definitely, hey, gee, Christmas came early. Here you go, week 1 salary. But, we got a lot to cover, so let's just jump right into it. Let's go ahead. We're going to do this very simple. It's going to be quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defense, and then we're going to answer some strategy listener questions. If you guys have comments, leave them on the chat row. We'll try to get to them. We can't get to all of them because we've got a pretty busy show. But it's very simple. We're going to do overall thoughts, number 1. After that, we're going to do overpriced player and underpriced player. So let's start with the quarterback position.
Before we get started, I want to say this, and obviously it goes without saying since we're about a month out, but this is obviously a very early look, right? We haven't had any real preseason games yet. There's obviously a lot that's going to change. So we're going to talk about a lot of players here, but I want everybody to know, don't pencil these into your lineups, right? We're still a month out. This is just some early first look type thoughts.
Yes, this is first look. So don't be like, oh, they told me to make this roster a month ago. Well, guess what? We didn't tell you anything. We didn't put a gun to your head and tell you to do it, But
So I can tell you my first thoughts when the slate first came out, other than thank God football is back. My first thought was DK is really priced down the rookies. Obviously we don't know what their roles are going to be right now in several instances, but overall, we're going to talk about a number of guys tonight, and it just feels like the common theme is that across the board, rookies are underpriced.
Yeah. So
I expect that I'm going to have a large, exposure to some rookies, particularly wide receivers. That was kind of my first thought on the slate.
Yeah,
what about you?
This slate's going to be crazy. I always say this, week 1 is the king of value town. I mean, you get so many values because players, I mean, come on, let's be honest. We have people that just join DraftKings. They start playing week 1. They're like, oh, I think I can fit Julio. Oh, I think I can fit Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. Oh, my goodness, Christian McCaffrey. And the next thing you know, they put those $3,000 players. The thing is not putting in those $3,000 players, knowing who you're going to put in as a value. I think this show is going to be very informative for you guys, the underpriced players and the overpriced players. At the quarterback position, my overall thought is basically I think we're going right back to the same quarterback we've been targeting all last year. My favorite quarterback play is definitely Josh Allen versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's a little bit underpriced. To me, I'm looking at Allen and I see upside. We saw what he did last year. He was a Konami quarterback.
He got paid today.
Oh yeah, he got paid today. And you know, Dak Prescott's crying about that too right now. I mean, he's crying for a lot of reasons, but that for sure. But Josh Allen definitely stands out for me as a quarterback. Is there a quarterback that stands out for you for overpriced, Tim?
For overpriced, yeah, I actually want to talk to you about this because the first guy that I thought of for overpriced, you actually have for underpriced. So I want to do a little me against you on this one, and that's Mr. Kyler Murray. One of the first things I thought was outside of Patrick Mahomes, he's the second highest priced quarterback. He's on the road, and I think he's priced near basically his peak of last season. Mm-hmm. So I feel like DraftKings obviously has a lot of faith that Kyler Murray is going to come out swinging. Now, a lot of that is based upon this is the second highest over-under on the slate as of right now. The Chiefs game is number 1. Arizona, Tennessee is number 2. So I think that's heavily factored into the pricing. But I just think that toward the end of last year, we started to see Kyler Murray, maybe be a little less successful on the ground. And obviously that's where so much of his value is tied to. So if he's forced to sit back and throw, I think it's going to be harder for him to pay off that $7,600 salary.
I mean, so basically just to counter argue your point. So toward the end of the season, if you remember week 10, he injured his shoulder. So after that, he basically had an injured shoulder. He didn't really produce at his highest ceiling. But before that, if you really go back and look at it, he was on pace for 489 points for a quarterback. That would have been more points than Lamar Jackson. So this is the ceiling we're dealing with Kyler Murray playing the Tennessee Titans. We already know they have a god-awful defense on the pass. But him being a Konami quarterback that can run also, along with the weapons they added with Rondell Moore in the draft, AJ Green. I know AJ Green's everybody has a little sour taste, but he's still a good NFL player, let's be honest. And then they have DeAndre Hopkins. I think their offense can take another step. They also added James Conner and Chase. They had Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds, the PPR running back. But I just love Kyler Murray price at 7.6. If I can stack him with probably DeAndre Hopkins, and then come on, look at that other side. Look who you can bring it back with. Julio, AJ Brown.
I definitely think it's this early look. This is probably going to be the most popular game, right? As far as stacks, because I think if you look at the Chiefs stacks, which we'll obviously get to this.
Yeah.
Chiefs stacks are very expensive, right? They're priced all the way up. So DraftKings is basically saying, look, if you want to build a Chiefs stack, the rest of your lineup, like you said earlier, is basically going to suck, right? There's going to have to be a ton of value to make those stacks look good, right? So the next stack that you're looking at is either going to be either Tennessee, right, with Arizona coming back, or Arizona with Tennessee coming back. And yeah, I think I actually like the other side of that. I think we both, or maybe Jason did and he took it off. But we had Ryan Tannehill as a value. Yeah. I think Ryan Tannehill is a value this week, obviously for week 1. Yeah. I think that he, like I said, a lot of times in those type of games, if I think, hey, everybody's going to go for, say, Murray, I'm going to go on the other side and I'm going to take Hopkins, right? People assume just because it's a home game, they're going to run Derrick Henry. But the way that you got to Arizona last year was throwing the ball. I don't expect that they're going to be that much improved this year. Mm-hmm. And at 6,400, he's right kind of 6,500, he's right in that kind of middle range where you could get a little bit of salary relief to be able to fit in, that extra $1,000 player. So I think that's he's definitely one of the first guys that came to me as far as a value. I
like that call for sure. I love Tannehill. It's just there were we were expecting to have at least 3 people on this show. So we kind of had to limit it, but I just kept my list, and I'm pretty sure Tannehill would have been right there. I love Tannehill. I think he's so underrated as a quarterback. People don't realize that he's been a top 12 quarterback the last 2 years, and now you add Julio to it. Why can't he be a top 8 quarterback, Right. And I get it, the whole Derrick Henry, they run the ball, but he's so efficient. If he gets 300 yards, 280 yards and 4 touchdowns, would that surprise me? No. Especially in a high-paced game like this, I expect to be. I mean, they have a 27.50 Vegas total. I mean, it just screams to me value, But the other guy I like is
And one thing you did mention, just real quick before you move on, he also had 7 rushing touchdowns last year. Right? Yes. That should not be overlooked. Like, he's not at the Josh Allen level where they get in and you just expect he's going to sneak it, but they're not afraid to give him the ball down near the goal line. Like, how many times did we have Derrick Henry last year and get tilted because Ryan Tannehill ran it in, right? So that's always on the list for him.
So speaking of this game, AJ had a pretty good question. He said, how is the Rona and players not having their shot going to affect people playing, you think, in value position for people that will sit like Hopkins if enforced? I don't know if the NFL is going to enforce them to sit the game. I don't think they can, because they have the option to, basically sit the game, not play or play. But here's the way I put it. I think the NFL players are starting to realize that a lot of teammates are basically saying, we're trying to do something here. We're trying to win a game. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. And if you're either in or you're out. And Hopkins, he can have to swallow his pride if he's going to play. I'm not going to get political about this. But the way I put it, these are professional athletes getting paid millions of dollars. They had the option a long time ago. And if they are going to wait till the last minute of week 1 NFL season, dude, maybe you should have just sat out,
Yeah.
But
I think what we're going to see is that there may be a couple people on each team that remain, in their bubble, but that the rest of the people are going to make up more than enough to where these teams are going to be able to play. I don't expect that people are going to miss any time. No. I was just talking to Jared earlier about drafting DeAndre Hopkins in season long. Like, I would do it with full faith that he's going to play every game. Yeah. Right. Like, obviously this is a DFS show, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not worried about him. Right. Like, if you were like, and this is somebody we may talk about later, if you were like on the, whatever, he thinks he's the greatest slot receiver in the league, but Cole Beasley, right? Like, if you're Kirk Cousins or DeAndre Hopkins, like, I'm not worried, right? But if you're Cole Beasley, I'm starting to be like, how much do we really need Cole Beasley, right?
Yeah.
They got Gabe Davis. They got Emmanuel Sanders. So it's just kind of like, hey, Cole, we really need you to get that shot, right? And he's not going to do it. So that's somebody I would be more concerned about than, say, D-Hop or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, like, here's the way I put it. There's going to be value that opens up if the coronavirus has an outbreak. So, I mean, like, if a player sit down, we remember last year, you guys remember that Kamara week that he was sat next to that fullback, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And we all saw we were going to get Latavius. Well, guess what? We did get Latavius Murray, right? Because he was out, right? Did we get Latavius that week? But I can't remember. But let's see.
I do want to talk about what Kyle had a question in the chat. What do you think about stacking Mayfield? With a KC player. And I actually was going to talk about that. Baker was one of the people I had under my values, because I think that that's a great way to go about that game. Mm-hmm. I actually have another cheaper quarterback that I actually like even more than Baker. Joey Burrow is obviously right there in that same range, right?
Yeah,
so I think
baby.
those are going to be 2 very, very popular options. But to Kyle's question, I mentioned it with Tannehill. It's the same thing with Baker Mayfield. If everybody looks like they're going to play one stack, I love playing the other side and bringing it back with the other guy, because you're going to get the quarterback at much lower ownership. And exactly, Mayfield, Landry, and a KC player. I love it. Yeah. I'm going to have a lot of stacks like that where I feel like I'm going to go on the other side of a chalk stack and try and get a little bit of leverage. So go ahead.
One of the things I did research on 4for4, shout out to them, excellent website. They said that every single time a quarterback scores 25 points or more, the opposite side of the quarterback actually scored 25 points or more 50% of the time. Mm-hmm. So that's something I always intake, and I always say this: run it back. I mean, if it's a quarterback that's highly projected and the Vegas total matches, the team on the other side, that quarterback can have to keep up. And this screams value for me with Baker Mayfield, with Landry, with Odell Beckham Jr. Guys, I know you guys think he's washed up, but trust me, he's going to show up this year. And many other players. Yeah, there you go.
No, actually, Kyle, he mentioned Mayfield. So I would not do Chubb, and it's just because I just don't feel like he's nearly enough involved in the passing game that if the Browns are going to score, it's either going to be Mayfield or Chubb, and that the only time I really like stacking with a non-pass, receiver a running back that doesn't catch a lot of passes is if I feel like I'm trying to capture all of a ton of points, but I don't feel like there's enough points in this game. But yeah, I see some people laughing in the chat. I do think Landry is always Mr. Consistent. But, Odell will occasionally have that spike game on you, and I wouldn't be surprised if it came right out the gate if he's 100%. So, but I know we need to move on, but I do want to talk about this because I kind of teased it a little bit earlier. I do want to mention real quick before we, like I said, move on. Taysom Hill, right? We have to talk about what's going on in New Orleans because I think that battle could go all the way up to week 1. It seems like one day you think it's Jameis, the next day it's Taysom Hill, right? So if it is Taysom Hill, I think that affects a couple players on the slate. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to play him, but I think at 5,200, he's underpriced if he does end up getting the starting role, which rolls right into the next guy who I think might be, in my opinion, the most underpriced quarterback on Draftkings, and that's Cam Newton. And it really hurts me to say that, but all the news coming out of Cam is that Cam has this job, and he's looked really good. So he came out the gate swinging hard last year, and I expect something similar. This time he's got Mac Jones in his back pocket, right? He knows he's got the young guy chasing up on him. And so if we were going to ever see a, vintage Cam performance, I think it could be right out of the gate week 1. So at 5,400, I think he's just too cheap. He's so cheap that I don't even think that you need to stack him with anybody because that extra $1,000 that you would get over somebody like, Tannehill or Kirk Cousins or something like that could be used to, pay up everywhere. I think we talked about this. There was a year last year where the Millie Maker, basically the guy said, I'm going to run naked Cam and just stick the best spot in every other slot, right? Just top value in every other slot with naked Cam at quarterback. And he took down the Millie Maker. So, I'm not saying that that's obviously going to happen again, but I do think that at his price, he definitely is somebody I'm going to have a lot of exposure to.
Well, naked Taysom Hill took down a Millie Maker last year, so that gives you an idea. You can always be different. I mean, the Millie Maker, it's like scratching a lottery. You can put 150 bullets in there, but even then, you're still scratching a lottery. What's his name? AJ, you said that Cam Newton hasn't been the same since Rona. I understand, but players, they get more healthier, they recover from this stuff. If you're going to tell me it took them a whole year to recover, I'm going to have a hard time believing that a professional athlete can't recover from the Rona. I think he'll be fine. Zeke looks like in tremendous shape. Other players looked okay. Even in the NBA, a lot of these players got Rona and they recovered. But
they basically brought in Jonnu and Hunter Henry to make this offense more friendly for Cam Newton, right? To be able to block for him, to be able to get him easier passes, to be able to score when they're in the red zone. All of those things I think are going to benefit him. And like I said, I think he's just too cheap out the gate. So,
okay. With that being said, it looks like my overpriced quarterback is pretty simple. It's Big Ben. I'm not paying for Big Ben. I love the fact that people think he lost a little bit of weight. He didn't lose a little bit of weight, guys. He just stopped drinking a little bit of alcohol, and that's it. I could lose 10 pounds, stop drinking alcohol. Trust me. But I like the whole. This might be his last year. I think he's the last quarterback to survive that draft. Philip Rivers retired, Eli Manning's retired, and now it's him. I might be wrong. I think there's a fourth quarterback, but I don't even. If he is, he's not relevant. But anyways, with the Big Ben, to me, it's more about that defense. That Bills defense is nasty. They're very good. And last year, he didn't do very well for them versus them. And I don't expect this defense to be weaker than last year. I expect him to be even stronger. Big Ben, to me, at that price, I think I'm going to avoid him. I know a lot of people say that he has great wide receivers and everything. I get it. Okay. Yeah, he has Juju. He has what's his name? Deontay Johnson, my boy. And he had Chase Claypool. But at 6,100, I think we go a different direction.
Yeah. Real quick, again, this is not a season-long show, but is there any wide receivers that you feel are more likely to underperform their ADP as a group than the Steelers, right? Because it's just like they're all being drafted like they're going to be, top 20, top 25 guys, and one of them's going to have to fall off the cliff, right? So good luck guessing who it is.
Looks like you got Eddie sending you white Brett Favre jersey. What do you
Far forever, man. Forever.
Man. Brian said that first week of Millie Maker has 1.2 million entry. Talk about a lotto. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Eminem, talk a lotto.
Yeah, it's definitely a lotto that first week.
Is Matt Schwab doing the league? I don't know, man. I don't know. But
Matt Schwab was in the league way too
I think it's pretty simple. Our overpriced quarterback, to Tim, is Kyler Murray. To me, it's Big Ben. Another quarterback to be mentioned, to me, it's Russell Wilson. And the only short reason for that is I think they're going to be more balanced. They're not going to really be like a first pass offense they were the first half of the season, and then they kind of trended downward. But that price, I just can't pay for it. Cam Newton is Tim's underpriced, and Tannehill, along with Taysom Hill. I like Taysom Hill if he starts. Joe Burrow is my underpriced quarterback, and Kyler Murray. Let's go ahead and move over to running back. I think you have the guy that everybody wants to play, Tim. Who is your favorite? I get this confused. I think best play, but it's actually overpriced. That is interesting. You think CMC is overpriced?
I do. He is. Yeah. I think for week 1, I know this is tough to say, but I just don't see him getting the kind of usage with Sam Darnold that he got in the past. Like, I just don't trust his ability even to check down the ball to CMC, right? Like, I just don't. I think that CMC is going to have a very similar role to what he had in the past. But, I mean, he played 3 games last year, right? So his price is based on, when he was at his best, right? Coming off an ACL, got a new quarterback. He's priced at $9,500. I think he's a little overpriced. I honestly feel much better about Dalvin Cook at 91 than I do CMC at 95.
Holy crap, this is such a hot take. I had to take off my hat for it, man. Holy smoke. I can never say CMC's overpriced due to who he is, but you do have some valid points. There is more weapons there. There is Sam Darnold there. They brought in Terrace Marshall. They brought in what's his name? But anyways, they have DJ Moore there, Robbie Anderson. I mean, it's more weapons to feed. So I think they keep it more balanced. We'll see. CMC is the fantasy god. Everybody liked him. Run CMC. My overpriced player is the guy that I was really, really high on last year.
Mm-hmm.
I love this guy.
It hurts you to say, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it hurts me to say. He's $8,000. Come on, guys. I'm not paying $8,000 for a guy that doesn't have a quarterback and doesn't have his monster best all-pro offensive lineman. It's Mr. Jonathan Taylor. Trust me, this hurts me to say because I'm a big JT fan. I was touting this guy on the offseason. I was touting him, People were saying, go trade him away. People were saying, oh, I'm not playing him. I'm like, he's going to break out. Just wait for it. But at $8,000, I just can't do it for the Seattle Seahawks. And they have a 22-point implied total. I can't do that. I'd rather pay for other players around that range. It's funny because the other player I was going to say I'd rather pay for, I don't think he's going to play. Mr. Saquon Barkley is not playing. Right. I can almost say that. So, like we say, this is first look.
Yep.
From week 1.
So I actually went down the first look running backs, right? And I went through, I said CMC, overpriced. Dalvin Cook, sounds about right. Derrick Henry, maybe overpriced. Alvin Kamara, maybe overpriced. Jonathan Taylor, definitely overpriced. Saquon Barkley, overpriced. So I was just like, the top end of running backs week 1 just looked so tough. Because like I said, when we were talking about Arizona and Tennessee, I expect that to be a Tannehill game more than I expect that to be a Henry game. And then as far as Alvin Kamara, when we saw Taysom Hill, assuming he gets the start, when he was playing quarterback last year, he was taking a ton of the value away from Alvin Kamara. When they were getting tight, he'd run the ball. It just, to me, if Jameis starts, it's much better for Kamara than if Taysom Hill starts.
Yeah.
So it obviously is going to come down to that, that week 1 decision. But at first glance, the only running back I think I'm going to pay up for is Dalvin Cook.
Yeah. And it looks like Kyle agreed with you, and Tim agreed with you too. It's the Cook versus the Bengals. I don't think the Bengals defense is any better than last year. If anything, they thought they could surround Joe Burrow with another weapon and just draft a mediocre line again and a shitty defense. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking, but they're stupid. I mean, I don't
can't wait for you to talk about your favorite underpriced running back, so go ahead.
Okay, so underpriced running back is Antonio Gibson.
That's the one.
Okay, Mr. Antonio Gibson. Oh, of course, Brian, Mr. Washington football team fan. Yeah, I mean, I was shocked to see Antonio Gibson at that price because he has the PPR running back. He's my favorite value running back of the whole slate so far. That bearing, we're probably gonna get a Devontae Booker. He's gonna start, but I don't worry about that right now. But Antonio Gibson versus the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, his upside, we've seen what this guy did toward the end of the season. We saw what he did with the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving at 5.9K, dude. 5.9K. That's a running back one you're getting out of him. Yeah. And, I mean, I have him projected for almost 17.5 points. So I'll take that, But the thing is to me is this. Ryan Fitzmagic is what we like to call him. He's going to move that offense more efficient and much better. And they have surrounded him with weapons. Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. They drafted Dynami Brown, and I believe the third wide receiver, I forgot his name. Brian, if you remember. But they have a pretty good offense. Logan Thomas, geez, man. I think they're going to move the ball much better. And at 5.9K, he's my favorite value running back. I see that you have Travis Etienne. Question mark?
Yes. That one obviously depends on role.
And I think Tim froze on me for a second. I think he was going to say it depends on role. If James Rock, I got you back. What's up, Tim? And you're on mute. Hold on 1 second. Okay. I think he said that it depends on role. But that's what I'm guessing. And we know that now I can hear you. There you go, Tim.
Yes, that's exactly. It depends on role. I put ETN question mark because the consensus seems to be that he's the PPR back. He's the receiving back, which I like better in PPR. But it obviously depends on what his role is, because if he's in a 50-50 split, then I don't know that I like him, but I'm definitely not playing Robinson. If Robinson gets all the early down work and he only gets the third down work, then I don't know that I like him as much. But if he gets the third down work and any of the early work, then I think I like him at whatever, 4,900. I think that he's priced like, a gadget player at that point, and he, may or may not be. So, especially since Houston is just so, I expect him to be so bad, Yeah. But I think that it might just be the ETN coming out party week 1. So.
Yeah, it's like Alec Pickett, a very smart gentleman. Besides being a Yankees fan, terrible mistake there in life. But amigo, he is right. Mr. Overpriced running back for me is definitely James Robinson at 6,400. I'm not going to pay that price. I see a lot of running backs at that price that I can take, including another running back that I like. But to me, 6,400 for a running back that's in a timeshare, I can't pay that. And like Tim said, right now it's between him and Travis Etienne. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think Travis Etienne is a better running back, more superior, and he's in a freaking coach's mindset, Mr. Urban Meyer. He's not going to be like a normal NFL coach. He's going to be Mr. Crazy. Oh, we can design this play for this running back. We can do this. You know what? We're going to play Tim Tebow at the quarterback position with a wildcat, and they don't know if he can pass it. I don't even know what to predict out of that offense, to be honest with you. But I can predict one thing. I do not pay $6,400 for a running back in James Robinson.
So talking about a running back that's not in a split anymore, who should get all of the carries, even though it makes me kind of vomit just talking about playing this guy, it's Joe Mixon, right? We kept hearing all last year we were going to get the Joe Mixon breakout. Never happened, really. This year, they're like, okay, Gio's out of here, right? We're finally going to give him the reins. So if we were ever going to see the Mixon, now obviously week 1 he's got the Vikings, so the game script may not be the best for him. I expect Joey Burrow is going to have to throw 50 times, but at 6,200, as far as I know, there's only like you said, one other kind of running back in that range that looks like they're going to be the feature back. and is in that 6K. So I'm going to ask you, how do you feel about Chris Carson?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm probably gonna be the lowest out of everybody on this whole Seattle Seahawks offense. I think a lot of their players are overpriced. At the beginning of the show, you actually said I think DK got a rookie price, and I thought even like DK Metcalf is really low price. And I'm like, I swear he wasn't. But I'm a lower on the Seattle Seahawks offense. I want to see what they have to do. I mean, I can see them being contrarian. But for Chris Carson, I've never been a Chris Carson guy, but at 5.9K versus Indianapolis Colts defense,
right?
It's a tough matchup. There's Leonard finally healthy last year. He wasn't healthy toward the end of the season, I believe. I think he was injured. But Chris Carson, I think they're just gonna, they're gonna score their touchdown and then they're gonna run away with it. And Chris Carson definitely a good play at 5.9K because he'll get that volume. Come on, dude, like DJ Dallas. Travis Hosmer, who's that other running back? Penny, Rashad Penny. Yeah, these guys aren't going to take his workload, but I don't mind him. I mean, we kind of already mentioned the guys that we really like. It's Gibson and Joe Mixon. Yep. I think they're very underpriced. One other running back I want to touch on. I wasn't really on him until I kind of I had to think about it. I'm like, does this make sense? Do I really want to play this guy? But Naji Harris at 6.3K. I mean, I think he's just the workload running back there. I'm going to watch the preseason game very closely, but if they basically say that he's going to be the workhorse at 6.3K in that kind of game environment, they are projected for a 21.5 total. That kind of worries me a little bit, but 6.3K.
And last year, that's how you got to the Bills. I mean, obviously, we're projecting some of that, but it was much easier to run on the Bills previously than that. So I think it's going to be a game script thing. We obviously don't know, but I don't know. I agree with you. I think if his role is that he's going to get 20 plus touches in that 6K range against Buffalo, it might be pretty tempting.
Yeah.
I just think, like you said, with the game script, the only reason I really like Carson is just game script, right? Projected for 20 carries. Game script's going to, favor him. But yeah, I think that I agree with you that he may not have the upside of some of the other guys in this range.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard. It's week 1, and we gotta pick our poisons. I do want to give a shout out for next week's show on Friday. It's gonna be Stephania Bell, Doc, and Jeff on the Armchair Fantasy Show. They're gonna break down basically the injuries. Hopefully, with all these injuries, we got 2 Docs in Stephania Bell and Doc, our own going for 2 Docs, breaking it down. Also. We have the going for 2. Hold on.
The Grinder Championship?
The Grinder Final. Man. Sorry about that. The Grinder Final. Go ahead and make a donation to GoFundMe. We would appreciate that. Then you can join in the tournament. It's a badass belt. I would love if I have that belt. I'm gonna put it right here so you guys can. Every day, every show.
I'm gonna wear it around my neck or something.
Freaking wear it on my shoulder. You can't talk shit, bro. This is me. No, man. Shout out for going for 2. Guys, go ahead and get signed up. It's gonna be last year was awesome. And donations are some of the best things ever. It looks like Jeff tuned in. He said, "What up, guys? Just tuned in now." He is on vacation, guys, so we gotta give a shout out to him. Jeff agreed with you. Game script definitely in favor of Carson, but Eason will turn it over a few times. Oh, we know. I don't even know who the hell the quarterback going to be there, but whoever, maybe Philip Rivers.
We'll get to that in the defense area.
Okay, so
touch on that again.
Let's jump to let's just jump into tight end for now because we know wide receiver is the biggest position that just takes so long. Yeah, jump to tight end. I think tight end is pretty simple. Who's first CMC? Now you got to do this guy? What are you doing?
Yep. So this one I think is probably my strongest take of the week. That's not Cam Newton now that we're a month out, right? And this is that Travis Kelsey is overpriced, but that you should play him anyway, right? Because I mentioned earlier in the show that all of the Chiefs are priced way up. And I think that a lot of people are going to look at that and say, I'm not going to pay all the way up for those guys. So we're going to talk about a tight end here in a second that's underpriced to most people. And I think that a lot of people are going to see that 8,300 price tag and be like, he's the same price as Devontae Adams. I don't know if I can play him, right? And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be tempted to pay down at tight end week 1. So Travis Kelsey is a monster. He always does well against Cleveland. Like, it's just all these things line up for him to have a huge game. But I think the price tag is going to scare people away. Now, obviously, it's a long way out from us getting any kind of ownership projections. And like you said, if we get to a week before and there's so much value that you can easily play Travis Kelsey, it might not be the leverage play that it looks like a month out. But a month out, it looks like everybody I'm hearing is saying, well, I don't know if we can afford Kelsey. It doesn't fit into any of our builds. So keep an eye on that.
So Kyle has a question. Says, since Kelsey and Hill are basically in the same price, who do you guys prefer? I'm going to say Hill because at the tight end position, I believe I can get more value.
And I'm going to take Kelsey. I think that it just feels, like a Kelsey game, and I think you get more leverage with him because I think a lot of people are going to pay down.
All right, my overpriced tight end is definitely Mr. Hunter Henry of the New England Patriot. Jonnu Smith did have an injury during training camp, but I think he's going to be okay. He should be good to play. But to pay 4.7K when I see 2 other guys that I'm really high on, and that are going to get more targets than him, probably more snaps too, in a game that he had a 24 total, versus Miami, I just can't trust the New England Patriots passing game. I can trust Cam Newton because he can be a good naked quarterback. When I say naked guys, by the way, that don't mean him seeing him naked. That means you run him without any players running back with him. But Hunter Henry, to me, I'm not paying 4.7K. I'm good. I'm not going to eat that salary.
Yep.
The second guy I have overpriced because, Tim, you don't have a second guy. Is Mr. Mike Gesicki. I think it's Gesicki, whatever, Grosecki. Yeah, I'm out on Mike Gesicki. I don't think he's actually a good tight end. I think Hunter Long there, the tight end they drafted, is actually better than him. And I get it. He's athletic and everything, but I swear to God, and I kid you not, there's a week where I played Mike Gesicki, and I'm not trying to be racist here, guys, but I was like, oh my gosh, Mike Gesicki, yes! There's a white tight end. Guess what? It wasn't him. Another touchdown later. Oh my gosh, Mike Gesicki. Another white tight end. They had 2 different white tight ends that scored a touchdown, and it wasn't him. I was like, what is going on? I don't know if Mike Gesicki's shit and Brian for his lunch, dinner, and breakfast, but I'm trying to see if he's going to get all the snaps again.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't feel like he had a connection with Tua at all. Obviously, that may have developed over the course of a year, but his best games were when Fitzy came in at quarterback. Yeah. So, I don't know. That's definitely somebody I'm a little bit lower on as well, because it just didn't seem like they had a connection, right? Then you bring in, he's got Waddle, right, who he's played with before. I assume that's where his connection is going to go, and obviously we'll get to that here in a minute. But I agree with you. Mike Gesicki is definitely somebody I want to see it with. And I think the reason you probably feel that way is the guy right above him and the guy right below him look like much better plays, right? At least at the outset. Yeah. Kyle Pitts and Logan Thomas, right? Kyle Pitts, obviously highly drafted tight end, right? You don't know what his week run role is going to be, but with Julio exiting, I think most people are projecting him to be at least a 7 to 8 target guy, right? If not 10 target guy.
They're projecting him to be a Hall of Famer, dude.
What?
They're projecting him to be a Hall of Famer already.
Well, yeah, obviously. I'm just talking about week 1. Like, we'll let the kid grow into, the next Tony Gonzalez or whatever. But just week 1 out the gate, I think he's still underpriced. We both had him as underpriced. I think a lot of people are going to have him as underpriced, just because of the role that you're expecting him to have. But Brian wants us to make sure we mention Hayden Hurst is still there. I know. But I think that they're gonna find ways to get Kyle Pitts involved. They're gonna line him up in the slot. They're gonna try and run specific plays for him. I think he's gonna be the de facto number 2 pretty easily. So
if Hayden Hurst wasn't relevant last year, he's not gonna be relevant this year, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with those calls. One of the guys I really, really love underpriced. And I don't know how I'm going to do this year, but I'm going to make a sound, like a soundboard sound. Yep. And it's going to be like a fish noise. It's Mr. Troutman, Adam Troutman, man. Yes, I remember this asshole got us 0 points one week when he was
I remember.
I think he was like 2,000, right? He was like the lowest.
2,500. Yeah, he was min price, but he still got us a 0.
Yeah, he's got us a 0. And I've never gotten so many ads, so many messages, so many critics. Like we came on and I wanted to put a paper bag over my head the next week. But Adam Troutman, man, he is 2.9K. I'm gonna have a lot of him. I think with Taysom Hill there and Jameis Winston. I mean, I don't know who's gonna be the starting quarterback, but if it's Taysom Hill, he's gonna do check down. He's not gonna throw the ball very far. And let's be honest here, they lost Michael Thomas. It's gonna be Kamara and Troutman. They're the most gifted pass catchers for that offense. Marcus Callaway, no. I mean, yeah, maybe at the value, but Adam Troutman for me is gonna be that guy that I'm gonna be targeting. So Kyle Pitt and Adam Troutman both meet very good underpriced.
Yep. I got one last guy, and this is kind of my homer call. You notice we've gotten to this point of the show without me mentioning any Green Bay Packers. So I have to throw in Robert Tanyan. It just seems like he had obviously had a good connection with Rodgers. He's priced down at 4,200. I think New Orleans is a pretty good team to use to target against tight ends. So I just think all the things kind of line up. And, he's right in that kind of Kyle Pitts range, Jonnu Smith range, where I don't think a lot of people are going to be clicking on him.
Yes, so I agree with you.
I think that Tanyan may be somebody that you use as a salary relief, but maybe even a low a leverage pivot off of somebody like Kyle Pitts.
Yes, and I think I'm going to mention this because it's everybody. This is an underpriced and overpriced, but this is my favorite play of the whole slate. It's Mr. T.J. Hawkinson of the Detroit Lions at 4.9K versus the San Francisco 49ers. They do have a good secondary that can cover him, but sure, you can cover him, but he's going to get peppered with like 10 targets in this game.
Right.
And at 4.9K, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him. I mean, I have him projected for almost 14 points. I'll take that. To me, tight end is one of the positions I like to pay down. I understand Kelsey is awesome. I understand Kittle. Many other players are great, phenomenal, including Mr. Darren Waller of going for 2. I call him going for 2 Darren Waller because we discovered him. Fuck the NFL. They didn't discover him. I did before the season. No, I'm just kidding.
The Armchair Fantasy Show.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and jump into defense, then we'll get to wide receivers last because that wide receiver, I'm curious, man. Where's that wide receiver? But defense is pretty simple for me. Yeah. I don't know how it is to you, Tim, but who is your overpriced defense?
Yeah, so I only have one. It's the Patriots. I wanted to click the 49ers, but I just expect Jared Goff's going to be bad enough to where I can't really tell you that they're not worth that price. It would be tough for me to find the money to get up to them, but I can't say that they are. But I am going to take the Patriots because I think that Tua, we talked about this last year. Tua was already not particularly turnover prone. He's got another year under his belt. He's got more weapons, and they're priced as the number 2 defense on the week. So personally, if I'm paying up for defense, and I think it's pretty clear it's going to be a very popular play, it's the Sea Chickens, right? It's the Seattle Seahawks. Like he said, Easton is going to turn the ball over a couple times, almost guaranteed. Obviously, if they take one of those back, they more than pay off their price. Mm-hmm. So if I'm paying up a month out, right? If I'm paying up a month out, it looks like it's going to be the Seahawks.
I like that call. I actually kind of overlooked that, so I'm glad you said that call. Yeah, I mean, the underpriced defense for me is definitely the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. I mean, it shocked me to see that the Buffalo Bills were 2.5K versus Big Ben at home.
Right.
Big Ben.
It almost looks like a misprice, right? Like they were just kind of like, we're not sure what's going to happen here. And it's like the Bills at home against, like I expected that they were going to be closer to like 2,800 to 3,000, right? So you're getting a $300 to $500 discount, I think, on that team. They're cheaper than the Steelers, right? Yeah. The Steelers are 2,800.
Yeah, I was expecting him to be like 3.5K. I mean, last year, he struggled and he went 21 for 37, 187 yards, two touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I mean, that's at least 10 points right there. At 2.5K, that's 4 times value. Yeah. No, I mean like that. And then the team that I think is overpriced, I don't even know how they're priced this much, but it's the Carolina Panthers. Dude, like 3.6K for a defense that didn't play defense last year.
Yeah.
I get it.
They really had like one blow-up game, but I guess it's just because they're expected to get a home start against a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
But I still don't know that 3.6 is warranted. I agree with you there. I definitely think that it would be clear to me that the better play there is the Seahawks. But
I'm the biggest Zach Wilson hater, but it seems like I can say this: he might have a bad game, he might throw 2 interceptions, but he can score enough points. I think that Jet offense is going to be more rejuvenated with I think it's Saleh or
Robert Saleh.
Yeah, Robert Saleh. And they drafted my favorite value wide receiver, who we'll talk about later on. But let's go ahead and jump into wide receivers. I think wide receivers is the biggest. We found the value running backs, right? We found the running backs we want to target. We're not going to pay up like for the finesse or like whatever, But now we need to find the value. Where is the value at on the slate? To me, it's at wide receiver.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it, Tim? Let me know who your overpriced wide receiver is, and then we'll get to those underpriced wide receivers because we got a lot of underpriced wide receivers.
Yeah, agreed. So just real quick strategy note. Last year, we saw multiple GPP winners going with the idea of just basically punting wide receiver 3 altogether. I think that's going to become more and more of a viable strategy as teams start continuing to run more and more 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, to where these wide receiver 3s are consistently getting like 7 targets a game, and not playing them at like sub 4K is just bad practice, right? So I think this is going to be a continuous theme throughout the year, trying to find that, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 that looks like they're underpriced and that you can just basically punt the position and fill up everything else. But we do have something in common here. You mentioned earlier in the show, one offense you were not very enthusiastic about coming out the gate, and that's Seattle Seahawks. My overpriced wide receiver is DK Metcalf. You said you thought that I said he was underpriced, and no, I actually think it's the other way.
Yeah.
I think last year toward the end of the year, and this may have been what you were alluding to, more and more teams started to play cover 2 against them, made sure they had a safety over the top of DK, and his production outside of that last game slowed significantly. So if defenses are going to come out, I know, Indianapolis is whatever, but if they're going to come out and say, we're going to commit 2 guys to DK Metcalf right out the gate, and if Tyler Lockett beats us, so be it. I think that's going to be their game plan. So for week 1, my gut feeling is that it's going to be like a, 5 for 50 type week for DK Metcalf, which is not nearly enough to pay off that salary.
Yeah. Well, when the guy can only run a fly route and a slant.
Right. A 2 and a 9, a slant and a go.
I mean, come on, dude. Like, give us some butt end or some hooks or some zigzag, something, man. Give us something different, man. Like, give us a double move. Like, I mean, we get it. You go try out for the Olympics or whatever, and then you can't run a freaking button hook on a football field. All right, dude.
Yeah. So we'll definitely. I want to see the growth of him as a wide receiver before I think I dive into that guy. But.
And if he does grow, holy shit. No, I mean, my 2.
I continue with your hating on the Steelers because I see that's your top guy for overpriced.
Yeah, I mean, I like Naji Harris though. Okay, so,
right, that's true.
My 2 overpriced guys, pretty simple. Brandon Cooks. The only reason why I'm going to say that, I don't know who his quarterback is, and whoever his quarterback is, let's say it's the backup David Mill, he's not going to be great. Brandon Cooks is priced. I'm good. I'm out. I used to be a big Brandon Cook guy. He always produced when he's healthy. Juju Smith-Schuster, man, I can't tell you this. Like, on the road, versus the Bills, he ain't going to dance on that middle of the field, man. I'm not paying for the Juju price. To me, it's too pricey. I get it. I mean, it's just target, man. I need to see target. And Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool being there is just too much. 6.2K. And you got Deontay Johnson right above him at 6.3K. I think you have to pick your poison, but I'm not picking no poison, man. I'm just passing on this little flower. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster, to me, it's just like prima donna wide receiver. There's a reason. I mean, the only team that targeted him were the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs, but there's a reason why nobody wanted to pay that Kenny Galladay contract, If he was really that talented. And my biggest worry with Juju Smith-Schuster, he hasn't proved anything outside of Antonio Brown when lined up next to him. So I'm good. I'm not going to do that. Kyle, to answer your question real quick, what do you guys think of the Jags defense on the road? I did look at that. They are going to be one of my defense on my GPP rosters.
Yep.
Brian Clark, Millmaker winner. I don't guarantee it much. Charles Barkley boys will have two of the cheap guys. Wow. Okay.
Guarantee.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I will tell you, and I actually going to put this as my number one underpriced guy, but I don't think it's just specific to Adam Thielen. One part of my research, I was looking at the cornerbacks for the Cincinnati Bengals. That might be the worst group of corners I have ever seen. So right now, their starting corners are Darius Phillips and Dallas reject Chidobe Awuzie. And their nickelbacks are failed Trey Waynes and failure Mike Hilton from the Vikings and the Steelers. So I feel like they're just going to be a team at first look that we are going to pick on in the secondary all year long. So if Kirk Cousins wants to come out week 1 and make a statement, there is not an easier team he's going to face. Yeah, give me, Justin Jefferson, right? He's got a small AC sprain in his shoulder, should be good to go a month from now. But if he's not, it's just going to be the Adam Thielen show because none of those guys can cover him.
No, man.
First off, they had one good corner last year, right? And then it's just like, okay, I can't pay him, so we're gonna go get this reject from Dallas and this reject from the Steelers and this reject from Minnesota, and we're just gonna put together this terrible secondary. So I could be wrong, obviously, but first look, I'm just want to vomit looking at that secondary.
No, damn, Tim, those people have family. Take it easy.
Yeah, right. I agree. No doubt. Eli Apple, right? I know his mom is still out there cheering for him, but
his mom probably at the podium at his NFL draft, man. That's embarrassing shit. I mean, I love my mom and everything, but I'm a grown ass man.
Hey, at least he could legitimately tell
people that he's a mama's boy. I think that's what he was gonna say.
Yeah, he actually. Okay. Yeah, fantasy sports doc. Yeah, I see the AC joint might end up being more of a thing. I actually said that. Obviously, it's a little bit different. But I was talking about Dak weeks ago before any of this stuff came out about him having to get a second opinion and going to the Texas Rangers because it's a baseball injury or whatever.
You're talking about Gerson.
I've been downplaying that significantly. I've already heard from people who are out at Cowboys training camp that he hasn't looked the same with his ankle injury, and you add this one on top of it. Yeah, I think that's a serious concern for me on Dak. But
I think you're
talking about relevant for this slate.
I think you're talking about Jefferson, though. He's talking about Jefferson, AC.
I know, I am. I'm just saying that it's kind of similar to me in the fact that it looks like it may not be a big deal, but at least Jefferson doesn't have to throw, right? Yeah. He may be able to kind of gut it out. But I agree. Absolutely keep an eye on that.
Let's give a shout out to goingfor2.com. Their website is huge on Mr. ISJ, which is Irv Smith Jr. That is definitely a tight end I really love if Jefferson is out.
Yep.
Shout out to Mr. goingfor2.com or Mrs. goingfor2.com or we don't know what sexism that website is. Doc, I'm excited to see your show next week. Let's go ahead and jump into the underpriced guys because I think this is where the moneymaker is going to be made in the million maker. Moneymaker, million maker. So tell me if I'm wrong. I love the Cincinnati Bengals, all the wide receivers except for I don't know which one I'm going to pick, dude. It's going to be T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, but my favorite one is definitely T. Higgins. We've seen this guy. People talk about, Jamar Chase played with Joe Burrow. Well, guess what? Jamar Chase did, but T. Higgins also did last year. So what's your point here?
I agree. I'm right there with you. I actually prefer Jamar Chase, but I think it's very, very close. I think it'd easily be either guy. I prefer both of them to Tyler Boyd. But I do. I think that if you're making lineups week 1, the Bengals are going to be popular, but I feel like you almost have to have them because as we were talking about earlier, if this ends up being the thing where the Vikings get up early, it's just going to be Joey throwing the ball 50 times.
And I'm calling it right now. The highest owned stack will be this. And we don't have a stack, so I'm just going to say it right now. It's going to be Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, running back with Adam Thielen.
Yep. I agree. That's
going to be the highest owned stack.
That's one of the reasons I mentioned the Minnesota passing game. Because I even said it when we were talking about running backs. My first thought was the guy to pay up for is Dalvin Cook. Well, if everybody else is going to look at
agree.
the slate and think the same thing, then boom, pivot to Cousins in the passing game. I'm right there with you.
I agree.
But I agree. We mentioned this a little bit earlier when we were talking about Baker and doing stacks on the other side of the Chiefs game. It makes me kind of want to vomit a little bit, but I think Odell is underpriced. I mentioned this earlier at 5,400. He's got that 30 point type upside still in his game. And, if he's going to be 100% for week one, right? Like they said, okay, he's about to, expected this week, right? Be 100%, but we'll see how that monitors a month from now. But at 5,400, like you said, he's priced the same basically as Brandon Cooks, right? And I have much more, I hate to say it, it's crazy to say, but I actually feel better in this particular situation about Odell over Brandon Cooks.
Yeah. I'm not out.
Ryan actually had a great call out earlier. It was one of the guys that was already on my underpriced list. Another guy that makes me very uneasy to think about playing because there are so many good plays in that range. But it's Miko Hardman, right? Like we just kept hearing that the Hardman breakout was coming and it was coming and it was coming and it just never happened. I'm not saying he didn't have some good games, but maybe, okay, it was stuck behind Sammy Wallace. But, best case scenario, he's the third option on this team. But we were talking earlier about how do you make affordable Chiefs stacks. And I think, like I alluded to earlier, if I wanted to go Mahomes, Kelsey, and then Miko Hardman, and then run it back with somebody like Odell, I think that it would be a little bit lower percentage, right? A little bit of leverage over what I think everybody else is going to do. So he's somebody that kind of popped off a little bit if he shows even half of what he's shown so far in camp.
Why are you like this?
I know.
Why are you the way you are? Miko Hardman?
Yeah.
He's been trying to be a theme for the last 2 years.
I agree.
He can't be a thing with the best quarterback of all time next to Tom Brady. Come on. No, that's a good call. I mean, the cheap value. You got to get cheap in that game. You got to find values and stuff, and that could be a great way. One of my favorite guys, underpriced, and he definitely probably a top play, but I still think he's seriously underpriced. I mean, he should be 8.3K. I think he should be the top wide receiver in this whole slate. It's Mr. Stephon Diggs at 7.6K versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I love Stephon Diggs. I mean, he's one of the highest targeted in the league last year. I mean, 14 targets, 10 receptions, 130 yards and a touchdown. That's almost 30 points versus the Steelers last year. So you give me 7.6K, okay, well, that's almost 4 times value. And I don't see any reason why I'm not saying he's going to get that, but we know his ceiling at least. Love him there. But, dude, like, my favorite value of all most underpriced players is Mr. Elijah Moore of the New York Jets. This guy had been killing training camp, and I can't wait to see the preseason game. And I'm calling it right now because they haven't had a preseason game, but he's going to freaking blow the roof off preseason. And people are going to be on him, and he's going to be one of the highest price one of the highest owned value players. He's 3,000. 3,000. That's how I'm going to get cheap. That's how I'm going to get Mr. Dalvin Cook. That's how I'm going to get two medium range running backs. That's how I'm going to stack that other game, the Kansas City game, the Minnesota game. That's how I'm going to get all this value. It's Mr. Elijah Moore at 3,000. I mean, if you were to tell me he's the number one wide receiver next to maybe Corey Davis number one, then him. But he's going to get 6 to 7 targets, maybe 8. And if you can give me 8 targets at 3,000, I'm in. I'm all in. And in this game environment, Carolina Panthers and the New York Jets, neither of them are going to play defense. Maybe the Jets will play better defense than the Carolina Panthers. But I'm excited for Elijah Moore. I know I was high on him as a rookie, and he's killing it. He's doing everything he's been hyped up to be. And so I'm all in on Elijah Moore at 3,000. That's my favorite player of the day. And when I say my favorite player of the day, I mean like of the whole slate.
Right. Hey, I got to mention something while we're talking about the Jets. I don't know if we actually have this in one of the questions, but somebody reached out to me is, how do you feel about Michael Carter? Right now, it does look like he may end up being the lead guy for the Jets, but he's still a rookie, and he's in what is going to be a terrible game script, I imagine, against the Carolina Panthers. So I just, even at 4K, like, okay, your starting running back is going to be 4K. Normally, we would just lock that in. But I think that there are more factors in this game where it could easily be a situation where he gets maybe 8 touches and gets pulled out of the game, or they end up going with a hot hand approach the first game and trying to get back in it. So from a theory standpoint, like I like the idea of a 4K starting running back, but unless between now and then we hear that he is, they said, okay, so he's a step above right now, right? But if he's not far and away the number one, I just don't see how you could play him in that game script, even at 4K.
I think one of the things we got to realize, guys, at running back, we want volume. You can't. And Tim, Jason, Jeff, all of us have preached that volume is king at running back, and that's how you're going to get that ceiling. Like we said, we're waiting to see what Travis Etienne does. Naji Harris, we know he's the volume king there. They're not going to share the workload. Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, all these rookie running backs, I'm going to be very skeptic about them. Like, I'm not going to be all in on them. There's other players that I like. I mean, at 4,000, you can get I'm telling you guys, like Chase Edmond, 4.6K. It just, to me, I'm going in that mid-range, like Antonio Gibson, Joe Mixon, even Austin Eckler at 7K, Naji Harris, Chris Carson. That's where I'm going. I'm not going to go pay down for those rookie running backs. I want a secure role. I want, proof that they're going to be that guy, but.
Yeah. No, I agree. So I got one last guy on my list, another homer call to end it. And that's because Mr. Aaron Rodgers, 12 himself, personally said, I'm not coming back if you don't bring this guy back. And that's Mr. Randall Cobb. I don't know exactly how much Randall Cobb still has left in the tank, but he's 3,900. And I think that he makes a very interesting play in that range because I think that Rodgers is just kind of in a, fuck it kind of year, right? Like he's just going to do whatever he wants to do. And if week 1, Cobb is the guy that's open and he just, hits him 8 times for a couple of touchdowns, that 4K is going to look, massively underpriced. So if you, at least like with him, you could make the case that he could be the number 2 wide receiver. And it's not really a lot of number 2s, like you said. Now, obviously, you had a great point with Elijah Moore, who could be the number 1, or at least get number 1 type volume. But I still think Randall Cobb, if he's going to see 7 to 8 targets at 3,900, I think he's underpriced.
I mean, we know this is his last dance with Aaron Rodgers, so he might
dance.
Even though I don't really get that last dance reference because the Bulls won 5 championships and Aaron Rodgers and
it's his last dance to make it to the NFC Championship and lose, right? I can make that joke. It's okay. I've had enough emotions over the years.
I tell you this, guys. Tim can take a lot of jokes about the Green Bay Packers. He has a very high tolerance, but when they're down 21 points at the Dallas Cowboys game and his friend flew out from Utah to go hang out with him and ask him for a photo, he doesn't want to take him. And then I have to tell him, dude, they got the GOAT over there. They got Aaron Rodgers. And then they make that comeback. And then at the end of the game, he finally
does own the Cowboys. It makes it very satisfying.
Before we take off, let's answer some of these listeners' questions.
Absolutely.
So Jerry Wilk said, do you prefer a full slate or a showdown?
This is no question for me. It's full slate. I love the different options. I find like a lot of times, like last night was crazy, right? Because it was obviously the first preseason. Now for preseason, I might actually prefer showdown because I think that I can concentrate more on the guys that I really like. But once we get into regular season, I'd much rather play full slates. As you know, I think you're the same way. We put the majority of our money on the Sunday main slate, but I will play a primetime slate or something like that before I would play showdown. So
to answer this quickly, I prefer full slate, but I will play showdown on Thursday Night Football because that's when I actually dig really deep into my research on Thursday Night Football, and I like to watch the games and just research my ass off. Yeah. Second question is, I think correlation is always a great topic on strategy podcast. Maybe talk about the way to fit multiple high-scoring game into a single lineup.
So this is something you guys know. Last year, I did a weekly review in the DFS Roundtable. If you're not in there, get in there, because I would do a weekly breakdown of who won the Millie Maker and who won the big tournament on FanDuel every week and what their stacks were. And throughout the year, it showed off consistently that stacks on stacks on stacks is how you win these tournaments. So obviously we always, we'll talk about starting with a primary stack or a double stack and then a bring back, but having those secondary stacks and tertiary stacks in your lineups is what really separates you and gives you that really, really high upside. So that's how I really get the correlation, right? Like if I'm not going to have Patrick Mahomes and the full Chiefs in this lineup, I might still try and get like Kelsey and Odell, right? Or like you mentioned earlier, I might still try and do T. Higgins and Dalvin Cook in another lineup and just keep those correlations going, even if I don't have the full onslaught. So I agree. I try and have every spot in my lineup correlated unless there is just some off the wall crazy value that you would be silly to overlook. But generally, I would say that that's my normal lineup construction.
It's Elijah Moore. But Jordan, I think his last name is Cotter or Coder. Mm-hmm. That was his question. To answer your question, very straightforward. I've always said this, and I said this publicly. This is how I set my rosters. And you can go and check my rosters. There's plenty of websites. You can find my username. I do very simple: quarterback, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, or tight end 1, and then running back was their wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. Hold on. There's a question from Kyle that I want to answer because we didn't mention him, but he is a great play. I know we are running back. We are past the running back section. What do you guys think of Austin Eckler? That is a great play. I think Austin Eckler is one of the mid-range running backs that I'm going to be targeting because he's going to get a lot of workload. And last year, he was not very healthy at the beginning of the season, but toward the end of the season, I know who he is. And I love the guy. I think he's one of my favorite person to follow on Twitter for as a player, but I think he's a great player.
Yep. I think he is the last player in that kind of second tier of running backs for me. And he's the cheapest of basically any of them, right? As you mentioned earlier, he's 1,000 less than Jonathan Taylor, right? He's cheaper than Nick Chubb, who we expect to be in a split backfield. So I agree. I actually think even against the football team, right, and their defense, I still think Eckler is going to be a great play week 1.
Okay, last question we got here on the list, and it looks like it's Patrick Mahomes as a picture apparently, and he doesn't have a name. Thanks, Jeff. Got a DFS.
Charlie Fryer is his name.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it says, do you prioritize budget over players, or do you get out the guys you want first and figure out the money later? So I think Gerson alluded to this a little bit earlier. You get if you have a stack, right? A primary stack you want to start with. That's how I start building pretty much all of my lineups. And then I start working in a secondary stack, right? And then from there, I kind of go off how much budget do I have left, right? We talk about a lot of times, especially defense, you pretty much play the best one that you can for the salary you have remaining, right? A lot of weeks, that's just how it ends up. So if there are 2 or 3 guys that I absolutely want in the bulk of my lineups, I will plug them in and figure the rest out. But as we mentioned earlier, the strategy of basically punting wide receiver 3 is more viable than ever. So if you're in a situation where you're thinking, like he said about Elijah Moore, right? I have $3,000 left. I can fit all of the guys in, and I'm just going to throw this guy in because if he gets 8 targets, great. But if he doesn't get 8 targets, he's not going to hurt me, is very viable, right? We have so many guys that are scoring 40 when they used to be, 25, that you can take that 7 or 8 from a player now if he doesn't really kill you, as long as everybody else goes off, right? Like ideally, you want your 3,000 guy to go, 6 times, 7 times value. Right?
100 point.
Exactly. But the top end guys are so far and away ahead of those other guys that if you can find the extra $1,000 to get up to them or whatever by paying down, I think that's an incredibly viable strategy. So
there was a one time I think Bilal Powell was like $4,000, and
yes, you're never gonna let me forget Bilal Powell, are you?
Never.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I know you love Harry Potter, so never.
Right. Yeah. Brian Clark, he and I, one thing we do agree on a lot of times is that when it's just the overly chalky low end running back that just looks like he's going to bust, like a lot of times I'm going to avoid him. And sometimes it's going to burn me and sometimes it's not. But yeah, Bilal Powell, I think that week he got like 24 points at 4K salary, and it was just over and I think he outscored the guy that I paid up for instead. So
hey guys, you're not real friends with your friend unless you give him a hard time.
No,
but
absolutely.
To answer Mr. Patrick Mahomes' question, I simply have a very simple answer for this. People, when they build roster, they start building it on Tuesday. First off, that is my pet peeve. I hate when people, salaries came out, let's build a roster. First off, that roster is going to be irrelevant come Sunday morning. Second off, I prioritize my stack first because that's going to be the main key to my build. After that, I find my values. After that, I find a running back that's going to get all the volume. If those three criteria fit, then I'm going to try to make a roster around them. I keep my player pool pretty limited, and what I speak on the show on Friday night, pretty much what I'm going to have on the show. I have on my rosters Sunday morning, unless news break. And many people have told me, you walk to walk, G. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get on a show and talk about a player and then not play him. That's just not who I am. I back it up. I mean, 1 week, I think last year, I said it was Kansas City versus the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I said I was all in on Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I played 150 rosters with both those quarterbacks, and I profited a good amount of money. I didn't win a million maker because if I did, I'd still be on the show with you guys sharing my info. But I think those are the three priorities I make. Yeah. I mean, this show would have gone under an hour, but I blame it on Jeff because he went on vacation early and I had to take over as a host. I was not prepared for this. Tim, dang, man. I can't believe it's here, man. We have 3 more weeks, I think it is now. 3 more weeks, and then we have week 1. Guys, please tune in for the show next week with the Doc, with Stefania Bell, with Jeff. I think he'll be back from vacation.
Yep.
He's still going to be
join the Grinders Championship. Make your donation. Yes. It's always a very, very worthy cause. So please get into that.
And I don't know if Tim wants to announce his
I do, yeah. So last year, if you tuned into the show, I had a weekly roundtable arena where I would challenge one person to a head-to-head battle. This year, we are doing a full season roundtable arena. I will create a custom league where every week I will send out a private invite. And at the end of the year, the person with the most cumulative points will win. So last year, we had a lot of people that were interested in that, wanted to get doing it every week. So this year, we really wanted to make it something that you could tune in and keep up with all year long, our own personal DK league, if you will, just for the voice. So thank you, Kyle. It's great to be back.
Thank you.
Please jump in the DFS roundtable as always. I have all of the information, and then you can always message me if you have any questions.
Yeah, going for 2. I mean, the DFS roundtable is about to light up right now. We're gonna have so much football content from Jason breaking down his cash game plays on Sunday, from me breaking down my GPP plays and my favorite stack, from Tim just doing the arena, from Jeff going for 2 people. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of volume going through there. Again, for me, Gerson Aguirre at Fantasy GDFS, and Tim at Keto DFS. We appreciate you guys tuning in. I know you guys were expecting a beautiful Jeff Lambert, but he's very white right now, but he can go get a tan on the beach. I don't know how much sun there is out there in Virginia, but I'll see you guys in, 3 weeks? Week 1 NFL season. Whew. I can't wait. But peace out. Take care. Have a good day.
Go Pack, go.